During a staff meeting, my supervisor said loudly, "She's basically useless without step-by-step instructions, like training a toddler." I sat frozen as everyone laughed, and he finished with, "Maybe we should get her a coloring book next quarter." I nodded, took meticulous notes, and by Friday, I had exposed his entire scheme of falsified reports, right as corporate walked in to surprise audit him. I work in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm a staff accountant at a mid-sized manufacturing company that makes machine parts for HVAC systems. Been there for over 5 years. Most days are quiet, invoices, spreadsheets, numbers. It's the kind of job you do with headphones on and minimal small talk. I'm not flashy. I don't network. I don't kiss up. But I don't make mistakes. I follow process. I flag anything that looks off. That's what makes me good at my job. Not fast, not loud. Just thorough. That used to be enough. Until Craig showed up. Craig was brought in as the new finance supervisor last fall. Corporate hired him from a company downstate that downsized. He was tall, thin, slicked back hair, always dressed like he had a meeting with investors. Right from day one, he treated the team like we were idiots. He walked into his first meeting like he already knew who was worth keeping. I remember his first words to us, "I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to cut fat and sharpen the blade." Yeah. That kind of guy. I could tell he didn't like me from the start. I was older than him by maybe 7 or 8 years. I didn't smile during his forced team-building talks. I didn't laugh when he made jokes at other people's expense. And I definitely didn't flirt back when he once asked if I had fun plans after balancing all those boring books. I let it slide. Figured he'd get tired and move on to another target. But he didn't. He kept at it. He started ignoring my emails. Leaving me out of finance huddles. Assigning me cleanup work from other people's mistakes and then calling it a test of initiative. The breaking point came during a Tuesday morning team meeting. We had everyone in, accounting, procurement, even someone from operations. We were reviewing monthly spend reports, and Craig asked why I had flagged several line items from the Chicago plant. I explained, calmly, that some of the vendor names didn't match in the ledger and 2 invoices were exact duplicates from the month before. He didn't even look at me. Just started laughing. Then he turned to the whole group and said, "She's basically useless without step-by-step instructions. Like training a toddler." I froze. Everyone else chuckled nervously, unsure what to do. Craig kept going. "Maybe we should get her a coloring book next quarter." A few people laughed harder. I didn't say a word. I just nodded. Like I agreed. But I wasn't agreeing. I was remembering. I was filing it away. Craig thought I was dumb. That I was weak. That I'd sit there and take it. What he didn't know is that for months, I'd suspected he was cooking the books. Just little things. The numbers he gave to corporate always looked too good. Inventory reports didn't line up with expenses. Some line items disappeared completely from month to month, but no one asked questions, because he was saving the company money. So after that meeting, I stayed late. Everyone went home. I opened my personal notes and started digging. I went back through every monthly report Craig had submitted since he started. I compared them to raw ERP exports. There were discrepancies everywhere. Payments to vendors were delayed and pushed to future months to make the current ones look better. Some entries were reclassified, actual capital purchases were logged as office expenses. He was playing accounting games to hit bonus targets. I even found a pattern. He had a saved Excel macro he used to clean up files before submission. The macro automatically moved certain expenses to later months or split them across departments. It was hidden in a shared folder under the name Craig_Final_V2. I pulled copies. I saved everything to a flash drive. Emails, Slack messages, PDF exports, system logs. I printed out a few highlights in case the files disappeared mysteriously. By Thursday afternoon, I had a report ready. I called HR and asked if there were any upcoming audits for our department. They told me, actually, yes. Corporate is conducting a surprise audit tomorrow morning. I almost smiled. Not quite. But close. That night, I came in early. Real early. I was at my desk at 6:45 a.m. I put the manila folder with my report in my desk drawer and just waited. At 9:05 a.m., corporate audit walked in. 3 people from HQ, 2 women, 1 man. All with company badges, laptops, and those plastic file cases you only see in real investigations. Craig saw them and immediately got nervous. His face twitched. He made a dumb joke about rolling out the red carpet, but no one laughed. At 10:17 a.m., I remember the time exactly, one of the auditors came over to my desk and asked if I had a few minutes. I said, "I have something you'll want to see," and handed her the folder. She flipped through it, then motioned to the others. They gathered in the break room and shut the door. 20 minutes later, Craig was called in. He didn't come back. They escorted him out around noon. Security and everything. No speech. No goodbyes. Just silence and a red face. That afternoon was quiet. Too quiet. People kept glancing at each other but no one said anything out loud. We all saw Craig get walked out with his badge clipped off and his face pale like he'd seen a ghost. After that, the auditors stayed in the conference room with the blinds drawn. I figured it was over. But I was wrong. Around 3:45 p.m., my phone rang. It was Janice from HR. "Can you come to conference B for a few minutes?" Her voice was flat. I felt a sudden chill run up my neck. I grabbed a notepad and walked over. When I walked in, Janice was there, along with one of the auditors, Carol, I think her name was, and a guy I didn't know in a navy blue blazer. Turned out he was from legal. They asked me to sit. Carol started first. "We've reviewed your report. What you gave us was very thorough. But, there's something else." I raised my eyebrows. "Something else?" The guy in the blazer leaned forward. "There are some files that Craig submitted under your login." I froze. "What do you mean under my login?" He tapped a folder in front of him. "Some of the doctored files he sent to corporate, the metadata shows they were last saved by your username. Not all of them. But enough that we need to ask, did you ever give Craig access to your account?" "No," I said fast. "Never. That's against policy. I always log out when I leave my desk." Janice spoke up now. "Is it possible he used your workstation while you were in meetings or away?" I shook my head. "I log out every time. You can check my session logs." Carol nodded slowly. "We will. But right now, some of the evidence ties to your credentials. We're not accusing you, yet. But we need to put you on leave until the investigation is done." I just stared at her. "You're putting me on leave?" "It's temporary. Standard procedure when an active investigation involves multiple accounts." They handed me a packet. I didn't even read it. I walked out. Everyone saw me leave with the folder. The looks they gave me were different now. Not respectful. Suspicious. By the time I got home, I was shaking. Not mad. Not scared. Just furious. Craig hadn't just humiliated me. He tried to frame me. The files weren't just edited. He must have used my computer when I went to the restroom or stepped away. That bastard had been covering his tracks the whole time. And I walked right into it. I didn't sleep that night. I opened my personal laptop and started writing everything down. Every odd thing I'd seen Craig do. Every time I saw him near my desk. I even checked the timestamp on a report that showed my name. and cross-referenced it with a calendar invite that proved I wasn't at my desk during that time. Then I remembered something. 3 weeks earlier, we had a surprise fire drill. Craig and I were the last ones out of the building. I had left my computer unlocked. I saw him pause at my desk for just a second before heading to the exit. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now? I was sure. I emailed legal. I attached my findings. I offered to let them access my session logs and camera footage. I told them if they wanted to verify who used my account, prove it. The next morning, I got a short reply, "Thank you. We're reviewing your materials. Do not speak with anyone else at the company during this process." Fine. I wouldn't speak. I'd build a case of my own. And I had someone in mind to help me, Kyle, our IT manager, and one of the few people Craig never pushed around. I called Kyle that afternoon. From my personal phone. We weren't exactly close friends, but we'd worked together on system audits before, and I always treated him with respect, which was more than Craig ever did. Kyle hated him. That much was clear from the way he used to roll his eyes in meetings whenever Craig asked if we could clean up the logs. When he picked up, I didn't waste time. "I need a favor," I said. "Off the record." There was a pause. "Is this about what happened Friday?" he asked. "So you've heard." "Everyone's heard." I kept my voice even. "I think Craig used my workstation to alter files. I need proof. Something that shows I wasn't the one logged in when those reports were edited." Another pause. "That's dicey. They're already running a forensic audit. I'm not supposed to touch anything. I'm not asking you to fake anything. Just, if there's a log, something showing a keycard swipe, a time mismatch, anything." He exhaled through his nose. "Let me look. I'll call you back." I waited an hour. Then 2. At 6:13 p.m., he called back. "You didn't hear this from me," he said. "But there's a session log on the file server. It shows a login from your workstation at 12:43 p.m. on March 28, the one tied to the doctored March expense report." I nodded. I wasn't at my desk then. I was in the lunchroom. There were 3 people with me. "Right. And the keycard log shows your badge didn't swipe into the office until 12:58 p.m. You left for lunch at 12:10. My heart jumped. So someone else used my station. Exactly. And Craig's badge? Used on the 3rd floor exit stairwell at 12:41. Took the side entrance 2 minutes later. Only someone with supervisor level clearance can get in that way. He used the back way, sat at my desk, logged in, changed the file. Yup. Then wiped his tracks, mostly. But he didn't know we had backup logs on the mirrored server. That's not even part of the usual audit. I sat in silence for a second. You think legal has this yet? If they do, they're being careful. It's solid, but they'll want more. I can get more. Kyle sounded skeptical. Like what? Witnesses. Emails. Patterns. Maybe even a thumb drive. And that's when I remembered something else. Craig's habit of bragging. Not loudly. But when he thought people weren't paying attention. One time, he was talking to Seth from procurement. I heard him say, "As long as you rename it and don't leave it on the company drive, they'll never trace it." That was about a month ago. I had brushed it off. Now it made perfect sense. If Craig was hiding things, he wasn't doing it on his own drive. He was using external ones. He even carried a black USB stick on his keyring, always clipped on, always visible. So I made another call. Seth didn't want to get involved at first. Said he didn't remember the conversation. Said he had a kid, didn't want trouble. I didn't blame him. But then I told him I was being framed. That Craig had planted files using my login. That they might not stop at just putting me on leave. There was a long silence. Then Seth said quietly, he left his keys at my desk once. I plugged in the USB out of curiosity. There were spreadsheets, but not company files. Looked like vendor payment logs. And something called Q4_bonus_plan_alt2. Would you be willing to say that to legal? I'll think about it. I didn't press. Just thanked him. Then I wrote everything down. By Monday, I submitted a second report. This time with the timestamp discrepancy, witness statements, and a full summary of Craig's likely method of falsifying reports and hiding the files. I didn't accuse anyone else yet, but I made one thing clear: Craig didn't work alone. That's when things really started to unravel. 2 days later, corporate announced an internal finance integrity investigation. 3 more people were placed on leave. 2 were Craig's favorites. One was a junior analyst who had been promoted fast under Craig's watch. I wasn't reinstated yet. But I knew the tide was turning. The day after that, I got a call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end? It was Craig. "You think this is over?" he said. "You're not the only one with dirt." I stayed silent. Then he said something that made my stomach turn. "I know about you and Kyle." I didn't respond. Just hung up. But my hands were shaking. Because he was bluffing. Or fishing. But if he had gone through my emails or messages? If he found something to twist? He might not go down alone. And now I had to figure out, what else had Craig set in motion before he got caught? And who else was protecting him? The next morning, I had an email from legal waiting in my inbox. "Please report to Conference A at 10 a.m. regarding the ongoing investigation." No subject line. No hint of tone. Just a time and place. I walked in to find Janice from HR, the same woman from compliance, and now someone new, an older man with white hair and thin glasses. He introduced himself as Mark Gibbons, Executive Director of Internal Risk. He didn't shake my hand. "Please sit," he said, motioning to the chair across from him. He flipped open a folder, my folder, and looked at me over the rim of his glasses. "We have evidence now that clearly shows your login was used during times you weren't at your desk. You are not being accused of wrongdoing, and we appreciate your cooperation. However," he paused, "it seems Mr. Donovan, that's Craig, may have had help accessing multiple employee workstations." He set down the folder. "We believe Craig had assistance from someone in IT." My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "Admin level backdoor access. Remote entry. Something that bypassed the user logs." I shook my head. "Kyle wouldn't, we didn't say who. But someone did. And it's not just you who was targeted. 3 other employee accounts were accessed the same way." That's when it hit me. Craig wasn't just manipulating files. He was planting things. And now it looked like someone in IT might have been helping him. I left that meeting feeling like the ground was shifting beneath me. I didn't know who to trust anymore. I called Kyle from the parking lot. He picked up on the second ring. "Did you let Craig into the system?" "What? No. Why would I?" "They're saying someone in IT gave him backdoor access." There was a long pause. Then Kyle said, "I think I know who." His name was Derek. He was new, only been in IT for 6 months. Young, eager, and desperate to impress anyone with a title. Craig had taken him under his wing pretty fast. Gave him special projects and let him sit in on high-level meetings that made no sense for someone at his level. Kyle had always found it weird. Now it made perfect sense. We started piecing it together. Craig used Derek to bypass logins, plant false timestamps, and possibly even access internal comms. Kyle said he once saw Derek messing with remote desktop tools but didn't think much of it at the time. I told Kyle we had to act fast. Derek was still working, still had access. Who knew what files he might be wiping right now? That night, Kyle pulled one last risky move. He cloned the server logs and saved them to a separate, encrypted drive, his own. Then he flagged the suspicious access patterns from Derek's credentials and dropped an anonymous tip to the compliance hotline. 2 days later, Derek was walked out just like Craig. No warnings, no explanations. Word spread fast. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because when Derek's drive was imaged by legal, they found more than just false logins. They found a spreadsheet, buried under 6 subfolders, that listed names, departments, dates, and payouts. A shadow bonus system. One where Craig was funneling quarterly incentive money to employees who helped cover his tracks. The list had 7 names. 3 were already on leave. 1 was Derek. The last 3? Still working. One of them sat 2 cubicles away from me. And now I had to figure out which one of them knew I was the reason the whole scheme was unraveling. Because that spreadsheet? It had a note next to my name. Threat. Watch closely. The moment I saw that line, threat. Watch closely. I knew I wasn't safe, even with Craig gone. Someone else had eyes on me. Maybe more than one. I stayed late that night, long after most of the office had cleared out. I kept my screen dimmed and pretended to finish some reports, but I was really watching. Watching who lingered near my cubicle, who paused near the printer too long, who looked just a little too nervous. At 7:22 p.m., I caught someone. Denise. She was a senior accountant, sat 3 desks down. Middle-aged, always friendly, always asking if I wanted to go in on lunch orders. Too friendly, maybe. That night, she came back in with her purse and coat already on. I watched her approach my desk and glance around. Then she bent down near the file drawer. I stood up fast. Loud. Looking for something? She jumped. Oh. I thought I left my glasses earlier. On my desk? She laughed, fake and forced. No, maybe the break room. Sorry. She left fast. Too fast. I emailed legal the next morning and told them what I saw. I wasn't accusing her, not officially. But it was enough to trigger a sweep of desk logs, surveillance, and badge activity. Turns out Denise had used Craig's admin code twice in the last month to approve last-minute payroll adjustments. One of the names on the spreadsheet? Hers. She'd received $4,000 in unreported bonuses. They walked her out on Thursday. By then, I had lost count of how many people were fired, suspended, or suddenly resigned. 6 total, not counting Craig. All of them had one thing in common: they thought I was weak. Easy to silence. They were wrong. But I wasn't clean, either. Because when they wrapped the investigation, when legal called me in to close the loop, they didn't just thank me. They asked me something else. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Mark Givens said it straight. Calm, but pointed. We looked at the timeline. You had suspicions back in January. The first internal discrepancy you flagged, you pulled it, but didn't escalate. I wasn't sure, I said quietly. You were careful, he replied. But you let it go. You watched it build. I didn't argue. Because he was right. I had suspected. 4 months. I just didn't want to be the one who stirred the pot. Not until Craig made it personal. Not until he humiliated me. That's when I decided to go to war. So yeah, I was vengeful. And it worked. But I didn't act because it was right. I acted because it hurt. I thought that would feel good. It didn't. Still, the fallout was massive. Craig's fraud cost the company over $280,000. The SEC was notified. He's facing charges now: falsifying corporate filings, wire fraud, computer crimes. His house in Bethlehem went up for sale a week later. I heard he tried to reach out to a few former coworkers. Most ignored him. One told me he left a voicemail saying, "She ruined me. I hope she can sleep at night." I can. But it's not restful. The company offered me a promotion. I turned it down. I didn't want Craig's desk. I didn't want his title. I didn't want to be near the rot. Instead, I transferred. Quietly. To another facility, 2 hours west. Smaller office. Fewer people. Clean spreadsheets. Last week, someone left a pack of crayons on my new desk. No note. Just a quiet kind of respect. And this time I smiled. Just a little. Then I got back to work.